The radical left's agendas are attacking your values. But conservatives like you haven't forgotten what this country was built upon. My friends, the Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard, to represent your values in the D.C. swamp. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the struggle because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You know, I've been thinking about our discussions about the shooting in Minneapolis, and I kept thinking about it, and there are no simple answers to this. People think they have answers, and they don't. And the proof is, as they say in the pudding, that is, there aren't going to be any real policies implemented that will necessarily find somebody like this before they commit these kinds of acts. Sometimes we will, sometimes we won't. Life can be very difficult. It can be very difficult. And there are evil people that do evil things. And sometimes they're able to accomplish what they want to accomplish. In fact, if you look throughout world history and mankind, I can give you example after example after example. It doesn't mean you don't try, but people who walk to microphones in front of TV cameras, whether they be hosts, guests, politicians, they don't have the answers. They just don't. A wonderful discussion. I wish I remembered the lady's name who called into the program. We talked a little bit about the idea of courts, what can courts do, and I explained, perhaps not adequately, why our courts should pretty much stay out of religion, except to ensure that we can practice our religion. And that the government doesn't molest us or our faith as we practice our religion. But I also pointed out this is a great distinction between the Judeo-Christian belief system and Islamism, radical Islamism. And I thought I'd circle back. There's plenty going on, but I do this show a little differently. I thought I'd go back and address this a little bit more thoroughly. So, not so much that I'm not misunderstood, but that the point is made better. The United States is among the most religiously tolerant nations on earth. And of course, I'm reading from On Power. I'm not reading this because it's in On Power. I'm reading it because I think it's important. In fact, it matters not at all what one does or does not believe to enjoy the freedoms and security that American society offers, which are explicitly protected by the Constitution. The first sentence of the First Amendment declares Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Now, I should say to you folks, these two substantive policy positions in this one sentence are massively important. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. That's not the case with radical Islam. Or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That's not the case with radical Islam. Now, the reason is the distinction recognized in American society between the relationship of faith in the individual, faith in the community, and faith in the actual operation of government. In short, faith properly understood creates a spiritual, moral, psychological foundation. Let me repeat, spiritual, moral, and psychological foundation, which affects how the individual lives his life. In America, it's typically a moderating force in one's life, checking the excesses of the darker side of humanity, which in turn contributes to the civility of society. Let me repeat this, because I think it directly addresses the horror that took place, and it was horrible. I just saw the father briefly speak about the death of his 8-year-old son. In short, faith properly understood creates a spiritual, moral, and psychological foundation, which affects how the individual lives his life. And in America, it is typically a moderating force in one's life, checking the excesses of the darker side of humanity, which in turn contributes to the civility of society. Even those who reject faith are not utterly devoid of its implications. For example, one has regular interactions with others whose faith affects or sways the non-believer's behavior, even without formally recognizing or accepting the faith itself. Moreover, society is imbued with the influences of faith. It is impossible to escape it. Therefore, even for those who do not consciously or formally embrace a faith, the teaching and practicing of faith create the moral and value-based belief system of so many others in society. This is an organic process, not theocratic or otherwise coercive. It is possible to have, for example, a biblical or liturgical worldview, or a more formal or orthodox faith belief or perspective, and serve in the government without the desire, purpose, or conviction to impose that faith on others by governmental coercion. That is negative power. This is well understood in America, and there are reasons for it. For example, Christianity is the majority faith in America, but it is not the country's official or formal religion. In fact, Christianity does not preach political control over societies or administrative control over governments, unlike Islam, which I'll elaborate on shortly. Thus, in America, the individual's pursuit of knowledge and science not only coexists with faith, but springs from the influences of faith and are part of man's internal makeup. Therefore, positive power originates not from mankind's hand or mind, although certainly its practical and earthly application does, but its origin is transcendent and inherent. When we speak of universal or eternal truths, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and the 10 commandments, thou shalt not kill, etc., good and evil, these are fundamentally moral precepts understood and ingrained in the human conscience and openly expressed in free and democratic societies. They are known to be true throughout the world, including among those who are oppressed by tyrannical governments and regimes, by the less educated or uneducated, by people of all faiths or no faith. This is not to say that all individuals, cultures, or regimes adhere to these eternal truths. Some are evil, power-hungry, irrational, etc. Man's existence is strewn with horrific examples of his cruelty, from ancient history to modern times. And of course, man's imperfection is both well known and well established. But knowing what is right from wrong, for instance, is distinct from doing what is right rather than wrong. The examination and understanding, or at least the desire to understand what makes positive power and its differentiation from negative power, do not end here. In addition to its references to natural law and the Creator, the Declaration of Independence drew from the knowledge of philosophers, among others, and their conception of society and mankind. For example, on May 8, 1825, a letter to Henry Lee, Thomas Jefferson, the original author of the Declaration, explains, when forced to resort to arms for redress, an appeal to the tribunal of the world was deemed proper for our justification. This was the object of the Declaration of Independence, not to find out new principles or new arguments never before thought of, not merely to say things which had never been said before, but to place before mankind the common sense of the subject, terms so plain and firm as to command their assent, and to justify ourselves in the independent stand that we compelled to take, neither aiming at originality of principle or sentiment, nor yet copied from any particular and previous writing. It was intended to be an expression of the American mind, and to give to that expression the proper tone and spirit called for by the occasion. All its authority rests then on the harmonizing sentiments of the day, whether expressed in conversations and letters, printed essays, or the elementary books of public right, as Aristotle, Cicero, Locke, Sidney, etc. So importantly, I write, America, like much of the West, was born from the fusion of faith and enlightenment. Faith and enlightenment. As such, while faith is distinct from government, the latter being the organization of law by and through man-made institutions, the fusion of which I speak informed the authors of America's Declaration and Constitution on the prudent and humane order of governmental affairs. Now, I understand that my beliefs and observations thus far in this chapter will not be shared by all, although they will be shared by many, if not most. And my purpose is not to reach some kind of impossible consensus, or to preach about religion or faith, since others are far more capable than I in that regard. Rather, I am sharing what I intuit and reason, what I have learned, observed, and experienced, to describe the essence of a just and humane society, and its relationship to what I call positive power. Now, by contrast, for example, political Islam, as Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, as he explains it, seeks the centralized control of the mind, body, society, and government. He explains Islam has yet to go through an enlightenment and reform against theocracy, and for individual liberty and universal human rights. The dominant establishment of the Muslim community in the West and abroad supports Islamism and its believers, the Islamists. Like theocrats, Islamists and their sympathizers see faith as monolithic and do not tolerate diversity of interpretation. Jasser argues that the people of the Muslim faith deserve much better than this. He notes that the vast majority of Muslims are still a constituency that are not spoken for by anybody. He says hopefully we can grow out of bandwidth to do that. Now, a little bit more. Alexis de Tocqueville put it this way: Muhammad professed to derive from heaven, and he has inserted in the Quran not only a body of religious doctrines, but political maxims, civil and criminal laws, and theories of science. The gospel, on the contrary, only speaks of the general relationship of men to God and to each other, beyond which it inculcates and imposes no point of faith. Indeed, in America today, Jasser notes that Muslim Brotherhood legacy groups like the Council on American Islamic Relations Islamic Society of North America, Islamic Circle of North America, Muslim Students Association, and Muslim Public Affairs Council do not accept that devout Muslims exist who reject their ideas. Their ideas. So I've read enough from the book. I read from page 45 to page 50 on the chapter called Positive Power. This is the environment, the context in which I was talking last night. That really the courts have no business imposing any faith on anybody. The business of the courts is to make certain that you can practice your faith. Share it with hundreds, thousands, millions of people if you wish. And that the faith, the Judeo-Christian belief system, is the foundation of the nation. Tolerance. Tolerance. And this is why I said I feel there's just not enough God in society. That the secularists, whomever they are, whatever category, have forced God out of the public square. And there's no compulsion in the Constitution to do that. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Conservatives in every stage of life are faced with ever-increasing challenges to our values in the classroom, on campus, and at work. Prepare yourself with a solid understanding of our nation's founding principles in today's most important public policy debates. The Heritage Foundation created the Heritage Academy to help ensure that every conservative from any walk of life has the foundation and the tools needed to defend their values. This 8-week online fellowship includes policy lectures on the most pressing issues facing Americans today, live Q&As to learn from top experts in the conservative movement, and opportunities to connect with other conservatives around the country. Without conservatives grounded in truth and informed on the state of our nation, America as we know it cannot survive. So please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, and learn more about the Heritage Academy and how you can apply. That's heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. See, these wholly different views of the world, and I mean wholly, are incompatible. Completely incompatible. That is the Judeo-Christian framework, and other faiths too, and the Marxist-Islamist ideologies. They're incompatible. So when you allow more and more people to come into this country with no intention of assimilating, but have every intention of, quote-unquote, overthrowing our government, or imposing their will, leaching into the culture, into our classrooms, into our educational systems, this is the problem. And that's what's happening place. We have a Washington Free Beacon story here that this group CARE, which was set up by Hamas, the head of the group CARE, who blamed Israel for October 7th, and I will explain in a moment how he's involved in trying to indoctrinate now the K through 12 children in Philadelphia public schools. We'll be right back. America needs patriots who know our founding principles and who can stand by those principles today. That's why the Heritage Foundation created the Heritage Academy, to prepare conservatives like you with the additional knowledge needed to stand firm in your beliefs in a world far too often unwelcoming to conservatives. All Heritage Academy fellows learn from the country's leading experts through policy lectures and live Q&A sessions. Speakers include Victor Davis Hanson, Mark Morgan, Dr. Kevin Roberts, and many more. Fellows also interact with other conservatives across the country in one of 3 tracks: high school track, college track, or the professionals and patriots track. I wish every American could join this 8-week online fellowship. But the next round of applications close on September 21, so please go to heritage.org/Levin to apply today. That's heritage.org/Levin. Join the Heritage Academy to help restore America. Learn more at heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
The Mark Levin Show, where we create the talking points. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Isn't it funny? This weekend I talked about the hand motions of Gavin Newsom on Saturday night's Life, Liberty, and Levin. Now, nobody can stop talking about it. You notice that, Mr. Producer? They're just weird. The guy has massive hands. And I couldn't stop watching them move around and move around. So on Saturday shows, I was sort of gutting his policies and his failures. I mentioned his hands. And now everybody's mentioning his hands. Rush used to call this an echo chamber. It certainly is. I've spent a lot of time, and I do, on the culture. On the culture. Because you lose the culture, you lose the country. And I spent a lot of time talking about the threats of Marxism and radical Islamism. Because they are incompatible with our culture. And here we have a story in the Free Beacon. CAIR Philadelphia, CAIR, whose leader blamed Israel for October 7, launches partnership to make local schools more inclusive, quote unquote. A puzzling partnership in Philadelphia. The Council on American Islamic Relations, Philadelphia chapter, is led by Ahmed Yabadabadu, a Turkish-American academic and organizer who said Israeli occupation was to blame for October 7. First of all, I'm sick of that crap. You go ahead and look at your Bible. Our Jewish friends, you go ahead and look at your Torah. The Jewish people have been in Judea and Samaria and that area of the world for 4,500 years. 4,500 years. They're the only people on the face of the earth who are being told that their ancestral homeland, not because of an imagination, and we have ancient records of this, should belong to a group that named itself in 1965 Palestinians. It's sick. As part of that partnership, CARE says it will train educators on, quote, cultural competency, unquote, and, quote, inclusive practices, unquote, and, quote, visit classrooms as guest facilitators to lead student-centered discussions, unquote. Well, it's unclear exactly what those discussions will entail. It's clear to me. CARE provides a slew of resources on its, quote, educational seminars and workshops, unquote, on their webpage. One course called American Jews and Political Power, Myth or Reality, covers the key organizations in the American Jewish community. CARE Philadelphia announcement comes amid a rise in anti-Israel sentiment in educational material, writes the Free Beacon's Jessica Schwab. And the 2025 handbook for the largest teachers union, the NEA, includes plans to promote a version of Holocaust remembrance that does not even mention the Jews. You believe that? I believe it. And that's going on probably in every city in America. Maybe in every school district in America. You know, here in Loudoun County, Virginia, which seems to be 0.0 for so much of this crap, there are radical Islamists, in my view, who attend every single school board meeting. Every single one. Because most people don't. In order to try and influence and pressure the school board, which is made up mostly of Democrats. What do you think of that? And what about this famine and this genocide in Gaza? Unreliable sources, writes the Beacon. Andrew Seal is a senior lecturer at University College London, who helped write a highly publicized report for the UN-backed Famine Watch. Everybody's used this report, even my brothers and sisters on Fox. the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, that accused Israel of creating famine in Gaza. He's also a longtime anti-Israel radical who has defended Hamas, claimed Jewish politicians have a conflict of interest on Middle Eastern issues here in the United States, and supported boycotts targeting the Jewish state. When Hamas leader Ghazi Hamad promised to repeat the October 7 massacres again and again, quote-unquote, Seal said Hamad's comments were reasonable because Israel is currently committing genocide. And do you realistically expect a political leader of occupied and oppressed people to say they will stop fighting in absence of an alternative? Let's be real. Quote, unquote. In another ex-post, he claimed there was no evidence Hamas raped Israeli women on October 7. He described the footage of the attacks as propaganda. Seal also shared a Jewish Chronicle story about Jews serving in former UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's cabinet, suggesting they should be declared a COI. I don't even know what that means. Can't be good. Now, this is the senior lecturer at University College London who helped write this report that all the media outlets have been using. Numerous mainstream media outlets picked up this report without disclosing Seal's history of attacking Israel and defending Hamas. Terrorists are noting the possibility that his beliefs could have influenced the IPC report. Newspapers and networks like the New York Times, NPR, CNN, ABC News, and more, including Friends, relied on the IPC report to claim Israeli policies have led to mass starvation, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, including Katarlson, including, Bannon, including that whole crowd of, that cabal of Israel and Jew haters, and more America haters, in my view. More and more America haters. So I thought you'd want to know about this, too. And the Washington Free Beacon is an excellent source of information, by the way. And it's funny how the radical left and these radical isolationists are on the same page. It's funny how the Marxists and the Islamists are on the same page as the isolationists. Former Biden National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, the Jerusalem Post, urged Democrats to back an arms embargo on Israel, citing Gaza famine, failed ceasefire talks, and stalled diplomacy. I mean, here you have a democracy, and it is a very vocal democracy, contentious democracy, parties fighting parties, and on and on and on, up against terrorist fascists. And the pressure should be on Israel. This war in Gaza, I love it when people say, needs to get over quickly. It would have been over quickly. But for the interference of the Biden regime, it would have been over very quickly. But for the interference of Britain and France and the Arab countries, Qatar and Egypt, wanting to negotiate, Netanyahu has wanted to take out Hamas from day one. Former National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan disclosed he had privately informed Democrat lawmakers of his support for measures to withhold U.S. weapons from Israel, citing the situation in Gaza. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how is it possible that the Israelis all by themselves are creating a famine in Gaza and are guilty of genocide? We, the United States, the Trump administration, have partnered with Netanyahu and the Israeli government in the provision of food and basics to the people in Gaza. We are working with them. I guess if they are creating a situation of famine and genocide, I guess we are too. Now, isn't that ridiculous? Isn't that ridiculous? They're not, and we're not. But it's interesting that no news organization mentions this. None of the isolationists mention this. The Israelis aren't on their own doing what they're doing. The Israelis are working with us, and we with them. The president has said this on more occasions than I can count. This new food provision organization is mostly American. And I've explained again and again and again what Hamas has been doing with the food. So what they have to do is they have to go around Hamas in order to feed the people who are there. And of course, the only situation in which you're feeding the population of the territory whose leaders you're trying to destroy. There's not another example in human history. Not one. Not one. This site Mediaite, it was founded by Dan Abrams and is run by Dan Abrams, and I assume is owned by Dan Abrams, who's a putative Jew, had a horrific piece on its site in which it highlighted another comedian who was viciously attacking Richie Torres, who's a liberal Democrat representing the Bronx, but a supporter of the state of Israel, not necessarily of Netanyahu government, but also is vehemently opposed to anti-Semitism. And this Jewish comedian went on to accuse Israel of all kinds of offenses, all kinds of war crimes, and said that it's Israel that's really creating anti-Semitism by its actions. Now, I've heard this from others, too. This cabal I'm talking about. Israel's creating anti-Semitism? Really? Is South Africa creating racism in its treatment of other people there? If you're a racist, you're a racist. You don't need excuses. If you're a Jew hater, you're a Jew hater. You don't need excuses. If you're a Christian hater, you're a Christian hater. You don't need excuses. And if you're an American hater, you're an American hater, and you don't need excuses. So this guy's going on and on. He says he's going to upset his family, of course. And what did Mediaite do? It put it right at the top with an extremely provocative headline, which in fact fuels horrendous, poisonous, cancerous Jew hatred. And here we have an African-American liberal Democrat representing the Bronx fighting this nominal, putative Jew left-winger who's trashing Israel. And the African-American liberal Democrat is rejecting his entire argument about anti-Semitism. And Mediaite takes this guy who's a nobody. Folks, there are thousands and thousands of podcasters, okay? It means nothing. It means nothing. And they promote the hell out of it. And I posted something and I said, this Mediaite is anti-Trump, anti-Fox, and anti-Semitic. It is a disgusting website. It is disgusting. And Dan Abrams is disgusting. I see they pulled it. They took it down. Put it back up. Put it back up. So the whole world can read it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Conservatives in every stage of life are faced with ever-increasing challenges to our values in the classroom, on campus, and at work. Prepare yourself with a solid understanding of our nation's founding principles in today's most important public policy debates. The Heritage Foundation created the Heritage Academy to help ensure that every conservative from any walk of life has the foundation and the tools needed to defend their values. This 8-week online fellowship includes policy lectures on the most pressing issues facing Americans today, live Q&As to learn from top experts in the conservative movement, and opportunities to connect with other conservatives around the country. Without conservatives grounded in truth and informed on the state of our nation, America as we know it cannot survive. So please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, and learn more about the Heritage Academy and how you can apply. That's heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. You've had over 1 million casualties between Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine fired ballistic missiles into Kiev last night. Russia did. Almost no talk about it. Almost no discussion about it. Communist Chinese have 2.5 Uyghurs and 2.5 million in concentration camps. It's never discussed, ever. Never. In Yemen, the Houthis have slaughtered about 250,000 Muslims. No discussion, nothing. In Qatar, you have hundreds of thousands of mostly foreign workers who are enslaved by that regime. Not a word. In Egypt, the Coptic Christians are brutalized, murdered, second-class citizens. Not a word. In the continent of Africa, at least a dozen countries, black Christians are being slaughtered by black Islamists. You never hear about it. Not a word. Nothing. And I could go on. But Israel, you see, that's the problem. Israel. That's the problem. Bull crap. I speak the truth. Even if 99% of commentators disagree with me. I speak the truth. An assault weapon. Semi-automatic is an assault weapon. Truth is, if everybody who had a semi-automatic pistol or rifle used it to assault somebody, there'd be hundreds of millions of deaths and casualties in this country. Hundreds of millions. Because there's hundreds of millions of weapons. Now, I want to see the gun control law that would have prevented what took place yesterday to that beautiful church and those beautiful people in the church. I want to see the gun control law that would have done that. Red flag law, they have a red flag law in Minnesota. So what exactly would the law say? I say this every time. I say this every time. Because the problem to me is very complex. There is no simple answer, but I know that's no answer. No answer. But the Democrats keep going on TV and keep saying the same thing again and again and again, and they say prayer's not the answer. They miss the whole point, don't they? When they say prayer's not the answer, they're having a mass in a Catholic church. They're demeaning the very people who are the victims. Prayer's not the answer. Prayer is an answer. Prayer is an answer. So is free will. But the idea that the only answer is government and gun control, there's not a gun control law that could have been written that would have prevented this nutjob from doing what he did. None. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Seems like we have a little bit more information on the John Bolton situation. And of all places, the New York Slimes. It took 5 reporters to do this. No wonder they go broke, including Maggie Haberman. I didn't even know she was still a reporter. I thought she was an opinion maker of the left. John Bolton inquiry eyes emails obtained by foreign government. The investigation into President Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, began to pick up momentum during the Biden administration, when U.S. intelligence officials collected information that appeared to show that he had mishandled classified information, according to people familiar with the inquiry. The United States gathered data from an adversarial country spy service, including emails with sensitive information that Mr. Bolton, while still working in the first Trump administration, appeared to have sent to people close to him on an unclassified system, the people said. Sounds like Hillary Clinton. They were speaking on condition of anonymity. The investigation of Mr. Bolton, who has become an ardent critic of the president, burst back into public view last week when federal agents searched his Maryland home and Washington office. While those searches have raised fresh questions about the extent to which Mr. Trump may be using the Department of Justice and FBI to try to punish those he dislikes, the president said he had no role in it. But I guess the New York Times doesn't care. The new details of the case present a more complex chain of events. Oh, well, do tell. The disclosures suggest that a long-running investigation into Mr. Bolton's activities changed over time, with some of the issues echoing past inquiries into the handling of national security secrets. Okay, you just heard a sentence, right, where they talked about basically Trump retribution. And then they go on to the very next sentence. And what are they talking about? They're talking about really something that's very serious. The emails in question, according to the people, were sent by Mr. Bolton and included information that appeared to derive from classified documents he had sent while he was National Security Advisor. Now, Mr. Bolton apparently sent the messages to people close to him who were helping him gather material that he would ultimately use for his 2020 memoir, The Room Where It Happened, for his book. In a sign of the stakes for Mr. Bolton, he is in talks to retain the high-profile criminal defense lawyer Abbe Lowell. Abbe Lowell, who, of course, was Hunter Biden's lawyer. Mr. Lowell, who has represented Mr. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and Mr. Biden's son, Hunter, is defending two other prominent perceived enemies of Mr. Trump, who are now under scrutiny, the New York State Attorney General Letitia James and Lisa Cook, a member of the Federal Reserve Board. You know, it's amazing to me. They make it like Trump's the bad guy. Now, you got two investigations of two people who are being accused of mortgage fraud. Legitimate accusations, legitimate investigations. And they act like Donald Trump kind of ginned this stuff up. That's why the New York Slimes is so disgusting. It's got a story here, really a breaking story on what John Bolton was up to, but they can't control themselves. Why? Because one of them is Maggie Haberman, then Glenn Thrush, Michael S. Schmidt, Julian Barnes. There's 5 of them. And Devin Barrett, all of whom are losers. Goes on. No charges have been filed against Mr. Bolton. No, they're investigating him. One major reason for conducting the searches was to see if Mr. Bolton possessed material that matched or corroborated the intelligence, that is, the intelligence agency material, which, if found, would indicate the emails found in the possession of the Foreign Spy Service were genuine, the people said. Okay, they can't even write. 5 reporters, and they can't even write in English. They use the word found twice, within 7 or 8 words of each other. Justice Department spokesman declined to comment. Mr. Bolton declined to comment through a representative. 2 federal judges authorized the warrants for the FBI, 2, to conduct the searches. 2, to obtain the search warrants, prosecutors would have to show that they had reason to believe that Mr. Bolton possessed evidence that showed he could have mishandled classified information. No, the answer is probable cause that he committed a crime, that he may have committed a crime. That's the test. Shortly before Mr. Bolton's book was published, the Trump administration went to court seeking to delay its release. That's not what happened. They went to court. He had already released it. They sought an injunction to prevent additional books from being printed. Justice Department around the time also opened a criminal investigation into whether Mr. Bolton had mishandled classified information by disclosing certain details in a book. A judge later concluded he may well have published classified information, but the criminal investigation seemed to languish till the intelligence about his emails were gathered years later. They didn't languish. Biden cut it off. They withdrew it. So this whole paragraph is filled with lies. If you watched my program where I went into the Bolton issue that last weekend, you'll know this whole paragraph is full of lies. It's not clear what country intercepted Mr. Bolton's private emails, but Iran, Russia, and China all would have had intense interest in his communications while he was the National Security Advisor. He was doing all this because he wanted to profit from a book, and he wanted the classified information. It's outrageous. His motives are outrageous. Because of his role in helping Mr. Trump kill a top Iranian general, Mr. Bolton had a security detail to protect him from potential Iranian retaliation. But Mr. Trump abruptly ended it the day after he was sworn in for his second term. So how did Bolton help him kill Soleimani? He didn't help him do anything. He was his national security advisor. He was his staffer. Again, look how they write this crap. During Mr. Trump's second term, John Ratcliffe, the CIA director, briefed Kash Patel, the FBI director, on the information that had been collected about Mr. Bolton's emails. So it wasn't Trump driving it. You see, it was Ratcliffe at the CIA. He sees the information and he shares it with the head of the FBI and says, you got a problem here. We have a problem here. The officials believe the material Bolton had transcribed into the unclassified and unsecured email contained classified information. Each intelligence agency makes its own determinations about what information is classified, so it is often up to the originating agency to decide whether particular pieces of information are classified and how sensitive they are. No, it's not up to the originating agency. They have a say in it. All the agencies have a say in it, but ultimately the Department of Justice decides. How do I know? Because I was involved in these things. That's how I know. And I didn't write a book either. And I didn't take any classified information home either. I didn't copy any either. And I didn't send any to relatives either. And I didn't send any to any publisher either. The material in the intercepted emails included information that Mr. Bolton did not ultimately use in his book. But the book isn't the issue. The issue is the unsecured emails. That may suggest he'd been told it remained classified during early reviews of his manuscript, or that he ultimately decided to omit it because of either its sensitivity or its importance. Investigations of possible mishandling. Now, that's interesting right there, because Judge Lamberth, who oversaw that case I just mentioned to you, and I talked about here last Friday, and I talked about on Life, Liberty, and Levin on Saturday, he looked at the classified information that undergirded the the information in Bolton's book, and he concluded it did, in fact, raise serious national security issues for the United States. That was his conclusion. Investigations of, none of that's in this article, of course. Investigations of possible mishandling of national security secrets are nothing new. The law Mr. Bolton is being investigated under, the Espionage Act, was passed in 1917. But it's been amended since, of course. But in recent years, such cases have taken on an outside role in American politics. During the 2016 presidential campaign, Hillary Clinton was investigated for use of a private email server to handle her duties as Secretary of State. In 2022, FBI agents searched Mr. Trump's. None of this has anything to do with anything. Has nothing to do with Bolton. When you really bring it down to its basics and get rid of all the propaganda and BS in this article, they are telling you, from sources they have, all 5 reporters, that this is about information Bolton had in addition to the information that was published in his book in violation of, potentially, of the Espionage Act. More information. And that he used it on an unsecured email server. And I guess the administration is supposed to close its eyes to it, right? Because they don't want to be accused of, going after John Bolton. No, They should not. They should go after whoever conducts themselves this way, including John Bolton, and that's exactly what they're doing. They've opened a full criminal investigation, and they wanted to see if he had access to this information. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
How many times have you told someone, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Now, that's great advice for most things, but not so much for a cell phone. See, over time, the battery life fades, the processor can't keep up, and it's fallen in the toilet perhaps one too many times. Fortunately, thanks to Pure Talk, your cell phone is something you can replace without feeling guilty. When you switch to Pure Talk this month, they're going to give you a Samsung Galaxy A36 for free with a $35 qualifying plan. Wow, just $35 a month for talk, text, and data, and a free Samsung phone, the scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass, and a battery that lasts all day. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Look, supporting companies like Pure Talk is a really good thing. You win by cutting your cell phone bill in half. They win by hiring more Americans and helping more veterans. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to get your free phone today. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to my wireless company, America's wireless company, Pure Talk. You know, you watch this Gavin Newsom. Of course, his name ID is going up because, look, if Bozell the Clown were out there doing what Gavin Newsom's doing, his name ID would go up too. This is a completely failed and miserable governor of probably the greatest state in the country. It certainly was. With the greatest resources, access, look at the coastline to the entire Pacific Ocean. It was the agriculture that's available there, and what were beautiful, wonderful cities, commerce, entrepreneurship. Go west, young man, even in modern times, 25, 30 years ago. It's a lot easier to destroy things than to build things. Ask Newsom. Ask the Palestinians. Ask the Marxists. It's a lot easier to destroy things than to build things. So Newsom's all over the place. Now he's making a spectacle out of himself, and of course the reporters love it because they're with him. They want him to run, and they will support him every step of the way. The problem is his record is dreadful. His record is a disaster. But here he is with Politico, which of course is a government-run media outlet. They got money from USAID. What an abomination. Cut 10, go.
I mean, he tried to light democracy on fire. He dialed for 11, almost 12,000 votes. Now he's doing it in plain sight. The people say,
let's stop. This guy's such a joke. Such a joke. I assume he's talking about President Trump in the Georgia case, asking if they can find whatever it was, 12,000 votes. He didn't tell them to commit any kind of crime whatsoever. That's why he wasn't charged with committing a crime for that. He just asked them if they can find the votes, which is something that everybody does all the time. In other words, have you looked hard enough? You sure? So Gavin Newsom turns that on its head. He dialed for almost 12,000 votes because he's a punk. This is why these guys won't come on my show. They'll go on other shows of other conservatives. They will not come on my show. They'll invite other conservatives on their podcast. They won't invite me. Folks, I'm not looking for invitations. I'm not looking for dances. I'm not looking for social arrangements. I'm looking for confrontation to challenge these people. To challenge them. Go ahead.
People actually think this guy's serious about having another election? You think he's joking about 2028?
Yeah, he is joking about it, actually, because I've talked to him. Just because morons like Bannon are running around talking about it doesn't mean anything. Bannon says he's going to run in 2028. Bannon hasn't run 20 years in his life. Look at that slop. But anyway, go ahead and run, Steve. But look how he throws this up there. Look how he throws this up there. Of course, it was FDR that ran and ran and ran and then ran again, even though he was dying. Then we had to pass a constitutional amendment to make sure that didn't happen again. Go ahead.
Foreign leaders to the Oval Office and he goes to the White House store. Have you seen this? Anyone?
He doesn't go to the White House store, clown. There's a room where he has a variety of paraphernalia, beautiful paraphernalia. And he gives these things out as gifts to these foreign leaders and others who really appreciate it. What is wrong with this guy? I don't understand. Is there nothing Trump does that he can't acknowledge? Go ahead.
And he shows them the 2028 hats. He's not being serious. Wake up. You are losing.
Wake up. He shows them the 2028 hats. Go ahead.
About Democrats, or it's about all of us.
So you're absolutely convinced he's...
I'm absolutely
2028.
You've seen it. He tried to steal the last election. He's trying to rig it in plain sight this time.
Boy, this guy is a sick, low IQ puke. He really is. He's got the gift of a serial liar. He really does. He really does. This guy is a punk. No wonder he won't come on with me. Go ahead.
To get rid of vote by mail. He's talking about eliminating voting machines he doesn't like. He's setting up the contours where he can declare a declaration of emergency for anything.
No, he's not. What's with this guy's voice? Did all of a sudden puberty kick in, or maybe it didn't? Go ahead.
He just said on Truth Social, he's running the greatest grift operation in world history. I mean,
what does that mean? What does that mean? I don't even know what that means. Go ahead. You know what? Don't go ahead. This guy doesn't even run his state. He runs his mouth, but he doesn't run the state. What has he done to the state? Look at what he's done. He got crime that's run rampant, so today he puts on another spectacle, pretending that he's going to do something about crime. He's tens of billions of dollars in the hole. The borders are wide open for illegal aliens. Businesses are leaving, and businesses don't want to do any more business there if they can get out of there. Bed Bath & Beyond, just the latest. He put a lot of people out of business because he's signed an outrageous minimum wage law. You go there, the price of fuel is through the roof. The price of food is through the roof. People can't build their houses that have been burned down. He can't put water in the fire hydrants. And this is what he does. This is who he... Can you imagine him as president, what he would do to our country? I'll be right back. How many times have you told someone, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Now, that's great advice for most things, but not so much for a cell phone. See, over time, the battery life fades, the processor can't keep up, and it's fallen in the toilet perhaps one too many times. Fortunately, thanks to Pure Talk, your cell phone is something you can replace without feeling guilty. When you switch to Pure Talk this month, they're going to give you a Samsung Galaxy A36 for free with a $35 qualifying plan. Wow, just $35 a month for talk, text, and data, and a free Samsung phone, the scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass, and a battery that lasts all day. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Look, supporting companies like Pure Talk is a really good thing. You win by cutting your cell phone bill in half. They win by hiring more Americans and helping more veterans. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to get your free phone today. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to my wireless company, America's wireless company, Pure Talk.
Mark Levin says today what the backbenchers will repeat tomorrow. Call Mark at 877-381-3811.
Loudoun County, when we moved here, I think it was in 2023. No, wait a minute. 2003. 22 years ago. Much smaller population by far. Republican about 2-1. About 2-1. Today, its population has skyrocketed. It is the biggest hub for the internet in the entire country. 80% of all internet traffic goes through Loudoun County. It's all these massive buildings they have built here. And AOL is still here and some of the others. 80%. So you've got all these techies who live and work here. And not all, but they are libs. They are bad news. Then the morons that controlled the Republican Board of Supervisors, which is now heavily Democrat, they voted to extend the subway system into Loudoun County. Now, that was a disaster. Because you're bringing in more transients, you're bringing in more people, you're bringing in more dense population and all the rest, and that's what they did. And the developers don't care. Even the Republican developers. They want to build as many townhouses and condos and apartment buildings as they possibly can, and then they leave. Then they leave. So this is what has happened. Plus, immigration. Immigration. After that debacle in Afghanistan, Dulles Airport was the main receiving location, and Dulles Airport is in the heart of Loudoun County. So you have a mix of all these things going on, and it's now a Democrat county. It voted over 60% for George W. Bush, and it voted over 60% for Joe Biden. Get it? The school board is nuts. Absolutely nuts. And so here we have a story in the Daily Caller. School district letting boys in girls' bathrooms likely won't be swayed by Trump funding cuts. The Trump administration's most powerful weapon against schools in recent months has been the threat of federal funding cuts. For one Virginia school district, the tactic may fall flat. Loudoun County Public Schools, LCPS, which has taken a public stand against the administration by insisting on keeping its policy, allowing boys and girls spaces, is in the wealthiest county in the nation. The district receives just a small portion of its funding from the federal government. While cuts to federal funds may have successfully bullied, you see these reporters, they're all sick, bullied the likes of Columbia University into submission, some targets may be unaffected by the tactic. Federal funding make up just 2.39% of the school system, with $1.7 billion in expenditures last year. The majority of its funding, more than $1.5 billion, comes straight from the state and local governments. All right, I said, okay, well, now, wait a minute. You folks familiar with this case? America First Legal's involved in it. Other groups are involved in it. So you have 3 boys at Stonebridge High School, where our kids went to high school. Used to be a great high school. So you have 3 boys that go into the men's room, and there is a girl there, quote unquote, transitioning, Mr. Producer. And she's videoing them. Now that would seem to violate school policy right there. She's videoing the fact that they're there, not necessarily in the act. One of the 3 boys is Muslim. The 2 boys who aren't Muslim were suspended for 10 days because they complained. They complained about the girl who says she's a boy who videoed them. The Muslim boy was given a pass because of his religion. Now, I can think of several violations of law right there. But here's my question. You're not allowed to ask this question. You're not allowed to ask this question in this state. Where's the governor? The school district receives tons of money from the state. Where's Governor Youngkin? Where's the Attorney General? Where are they? They run on parental rights. They run on these schools and so forth. The dirty little secret is they don't do a hell of a lot. That's right, I said it. Secret's out of the box now. Where are they? The school district's policy allows students to use restrooms and locker rooms, as well as participate in sports based on gender identity rather than biological sex. Trump administration took aim at the district in July, finding it in violation of civil rights law. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, it used to be that if you're a boy and you go into a girl's locker room, you're going to be expelled because you're a pervert. And this is the same school district where 2 girls were molested. Molested. In the bathrooms. One in Stonebridge High School, the same damn high school. By a guy who said he was transitioning to a girl, but in fact was not. What do you think of this? The Trump administration's use of federal funds to pressure entities into... So the article's basically attacking the Trump administration rather than the school district. How they're blackmailing and trying to force these schools to comply. Loudoun schools became infamous in 2021 when it was accused of covering up several sexual assault incidents, accused it did in fact, including a case in which a male student claiming to be transgender assaulted a female student in the girl's bathroom. He raped her. The school district allegedly suspended 2 high school boys recently for sexual harassment for expressing discomfort with a female student who entered the boys' locker room, that's what I'm talking about, and recorded a video. The video reportedly captured one of the boys using the bathroom. Gee, now let me ask you, if you're a parent of that boy, would you be pissed off? The school district denied the boys expressing discomfort was the sole reason for the suspension, but wouldn't provide further details. Baloney. Meanwhile, Alexandria City, left-wing, Arlington, left-wing, Fairfax, left-wing, Prince William, again, that used to be Republican, now that's Democrat, are also in decent financial positions to be able to tolerate a beating from the federal government. What about the morality? What about right from wrong? It's not about a beating from the federal government. It's not about a beating from the federal government. Good God. Sick and getting sicker. You wonder why kids are screwed up? These government schools, the administrators, the Democrat Party, nuts. Absolutely nuts. That's why they're so screwed up, in large measure. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
How many times have you told someone, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Now, that's great advice for most things, but not so much for a cell phone. See, over time, the battery life fades, the processor can't keep up, and it's fallen in the toilet perhaps one too many times. Fortunately, thanks to Pure Talk, your cell phone is something you can replace without feeling guilty. When you switch to Pure Talk this month, they're going to give you a Samsung Galaxy A36 for free with a $35 qualifying plan. Wow, just $35 a month for talk, text, and data, and a free Samsung phone, the scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass, and a battery that lasts all day. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Look, supporting companies like Pure Talk is a really good thing. You win by cutting your cell phone bill in half. They win by hiring more Americans and helping more veterans. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to get your free phone today. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN. Switch to my wireless company, America's wireless company, Pure Talk. You know, these schools have to take some responsibility for how screwed up some kids are. Seriously. It wasn't a bathroom, it was the locker room, as the article said, but also a bathroom. But primarily in the locker room. But who cares? What's the point? Pretty damn outrageous, don't you think? I mean, you're screwing up these kids' minds with propaganda and indoctrination, ideology. You're screwing up their minds over biology and sexuality and genitalia. Then you're pushing God out of the way and morality out of the way. You're coming between parents and their children. I mean, this is a screwed up system, man. I'm telling you. And the wealthier the public school districts, and the more quote-unquote educated the population, seems like the dumber they are. I mean, seriously, folks. If you're a guy and you walk into a woman's changing room at a dress store somewhere and you say, hey, I'm transitioning, what's the big deal? They'll throw cuffs on you and go to jail. You'll go to jail. Now, here are boys with a girl is saying she's transitioning, taking video in a locker room. And the school district says that's not the whole story. Well, that's enough of the story. But why don't they tell us the whole story? And my complaint here is you have a Republican governor, you have a Republican attorney general, now do something about it. But they don't. They talk about it and talk about it and talk about it some more. And they'll go on Fox, they'll go on talk radio, they'll talk about how terrible these things are and the things they're doing to stop it. They're not doing anything here. Nothing. This is why you love Trump. If he were governor in Virginia, if he were the attorney general of Virginia, do something about this. Crickets. Very frustrating to me. Very. You know, the numbers don't lie if you use actual numbers. You look at the decreasing crime rate in Washington, D.C. Look at the decreasing crime rate. Even the mayor has come out. The incompetent mayor has thanked the president, federal law enforcement, National Guard, and, of course, the Metropolitan Police Department, which now report to the federal government. I want you to listen to this. Cut 13. This is Caroline Levitt, who's really fantastic. Go.
President Trump continues to deliver on his promise to restore law and order to our nation's capital. Since President Trump's intervention, there have been more than 1,283 arrests right here in the District of Columbia. Total crime in D.C. is down 19%, and violent crime is down 30%. Carjackings in the district are down 67%. Homicides are down 57%. Robberies are down 40%. Motor vehicle thefts are down 32%. And assaults with dangerous weapons are down 23%. And property crime is down 18%. These numbers prove the president's bold actions to make D.C. safe and beautiful again are working, just like he said they would.
And they are. And they are. Cut 14, go.
For 13 consecutive years, Chicago has had the most murders of any U.S. city. This is J.B. Pritzker's legacy, by the way. For 7 consecutive years, Chicago has had the highest murder rate among U.S. cities with more than 1 million people. In 2024, just last year, Chicago's murder rate per capita was 3 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 5 times higher than New York City. That's more than double the murder rate in Islamabad and nearly 15 times more than Delhi. Out of Chicago's 147,899 reported crimes this year, that's how many crimes have been reported in Chicago since January 1st. There have only been arrests in 16% of them. These numbers are unacceptable. And this is Governor Pritzker's legacy. He should put politics aside. He should pick up the phone and call this president, who would be more than happy to do right by law-abiding American residents in the city of Chicago, and we hope that he will.
Let us be clear. Newsom, Pritzker, Hochul, the whole Star Wars bar scene there. These Democrats support illegal aliens. They support criminals. That's why they're always busy. Like Bernie Sanders said, we need to get the felons to register even if they're on death row. This is who they rely on. The antisocial misfits, criminals, and illegal aliens. This is who they rely on. The dumber the population, they figure, the better chance they have of being a monopoly party. Because their proposals are nonsensical, they're impossible. And because people won't appreciate their history or their freedom. That apparently is what the Democrat Party's up to. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Well, you know, the U.S. economy surged past expectations. You aware of this? I bet you haven't heard a damn thing about it today. I bet you if it went down, you'd never hear the end of it. Over at Breitbart, John Carney, the U.S. economy expanded faster than initially estimated in the spring, as Americans spent more freely and businesses stepped up investment according to revised government data. Oh, do tell. Gross domestic product rose at 3.3% annualized rate in the second quarter. That's very solid. Remember, these tax cuts haven't really kicked in and resonated through the economy yet. That's up from the Commerce Department's initial 3% estimate and above the 3.1% pace economists had forecast. The acceleration followed modest growth in the first quarter. The upward revision reflects households spending more on health care, pharmaceuticals, and dining out, while companies boosted purchases of equipment and intellectual property. Business investment was driven by stronger outlays on software, research and development, light trucks, and commercial structures. Trade flows also contributed to growth. Imports, which subtract from GDP calculations, declined after surging in the first quarter ahead of the new tariffs on some goods. Exports slipped, but not enough to offset the arithmetic boost from fewer foreign goods flowing into the country. A key gauge of underlying domestic demand, real final sales to private domestic purchasers, which excludes trade, inventories, and government spending, rose 1.9%, up from 1.2% in the earlier estimate. Things seem to be going in the right direction, don't they? Price pressures remained in check. The Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge, increased at a 2% annual rate, which means nothing. Nothing. Core prices, which exclude volatile food and energy costs, advanced at 2.5% pace. Now, government spending was revised lower, driven by reduced state and local outlays, which tempered some of the gains in private demand. Well, I'm glad they reduced. The income side of the national accounts painted a similarly robust picture. Real gross domestic income climbed at 4.8% rate, while corporate profits rebounded after decline in the first quarter. Again, without these tax cuts really kicking in. The Commerce Department is scheduled to release its third and final estimate of a second quarter GDP, along with annual benchmark revisions to historical data, on September 25. So that's a good thing. That's a big thing. But almost no discussion about it. They just keep talking down Trump, keep talking down the things he's doing, which is really appalling to me because he's really a historic figure, but this is what we're going to have to get used to. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, the Russians are doing more than pounding Kiev. Just so you know. They're doing more than that over at the Daily Mail. The RAF, that's the Royal Air Force, the British Air Force, scrambled spy planes as Britain joins huge NATO hunt for Russian sub, suspected of threatening U.S. aircraft off, U.S. aircraft carrier, I should say, off Norway. Listen to this one. Bet you haven't heard this. Britain's Royal Air Force scrambled spy planes as it joined NATO in a huge hunt for a Russian submarine suspected of threatening a U.S. aircraft carrier off Norway. In what defense sources are calling a highly unusual surge of activity, meaning by the Russians, NATO allies have deployed at least 27 specialist sub-hunting sorties since Sunday in an urgent bid to track this submarine. The operation, which insiders insist is not a drill, comes as the USS Gerald R. Ford, the most advanced and expensive aircraft carrier in the world, worth about 11 billion pounds, which means about $14 billion, carries out exercises with the Norwegian Navy in Arctic waters. Now, we do that because the Arctic Circle is being taken over by Russia and China. The Royal Air Force has dispatched 8 P-8A Poseidon aircraft from the Royal Air Force in Scotland, their base there, which the Norwegian Air Force launched 3 more flights from their base deep inside the Arctic Circle. The U.S. Navy has also scrambled patrol planes from a base in Iceland and flown in reinforcements from Sicily to bolster the search. So the hunt is going, reminds me of the hunt, what was it called? The Hunt for Red October? That was a hell of a movie. That was a hell of a movie. Well, now it's back. They're hunting for this Russian nuclear submarine. Not because it's damaged, but because it's on patrol. These Poseidon Marine Patrol aircraft come with state-of-the-art anti-submarine sensors, torpedoes, missiles, and sonar buoys. And they can be deployed to listen for underwater movement, giving NATO forces the ability to detect subs operating deep below the surface. Well, they haven't found this one yet. Flight tracking websites revealed that one RAF Poseidon spent several hours hovering over the Norwegian Sea around 60 miles west of the Lofoten Islands. It's fascinating if you can get your hands on this article. It's got a map and you can see all the activity that's taking place. You know, these nuclear subs are spooky. They're frightening. The capabilities are unbelievable. The mission is thought to have started around 7 p.m. on Sunday and ran for nearly 48 hours as aircraft repeatedly scoured the suspected patrol zone. At sea, the HMS Somerset, a specialist anti-sub frigate, has also been deployed in Norwegian waters to assist in the search. The Ministry of Defense confirmed the operation was ongoing, but refused to be specific about it, and it goes on, but the photographs are amazing. Now, they say the incident comes as tensions remain high between NATO and Moscow following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and, importantly, increased military activity in the Arctic. This is why President Trump is talking about Greenland. He's always 10 steps ahead, isn't he? Western officials have repeatedly warned that Russian subs are capable of disrupting vital undersea infrastructure, including transatlantic data cables and energy pipelines. And that's what they'll hit. That's what they would hit. The Norwegian Sea forms part of the Guak Gap, a strategic maritime choke point running between Greenland, Iceland, and the UK, which has been a key NATO defense line since the Cold War. Control of this region is critical for preventing Russian submarines from accessing the North Atlantic undetected. Now, the North Atlantic is awfully close to us. And this is why, again, Donald Trump looks at a map and he says, strategically, we need to be in Greenland. The USS Gerald Ford, which only entered service in 2017, is the lead ship in the U.S. Navy's latest class of nuclear-powered supercarriers. It can carry more than 75 aircraft, including FA-18 fighter jets and advanced surveillance systems, and serves as a floating air base for power projection. Losing such a vessel, even temporarily, would be a huge blow to NATO forces and a significant propaganda victory for the Kremlin. I don't know what they mean. I don't think Russia's going to attack it necessarily. But they're obviously tracking it and tracking our whereabouts with these key vessels. Oh, boy. But don't worry, Putin's a good guy. Just ask the isolationists. Ask that cabal. They'll tell you it's Putin. He's a good man. Just misunderstood. It's Zelensky. He's the lowlife, yeah. It's the Ukrainians. They just won't roll over and play dead. They just won't surrender. If they'd only surrender and roll over and play dead, everything would be great, except for Poland and Romania and the Balkan states. They're next. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
It's a pleasure to have with us David Bozell, the Media Research Center president. David Bozell, how are you, my friend?
Mr. Levin, how are you?
I'm doing great. How's Papa Bear doing and Mama Bear?
Doing well. They're traversing through Europe. He's getting set for hopefully his Senate confirmation hearings. He's, as everyone knows, he's a South African ambassador designee. So that should be coming up later September. So he's excited.
It's amazing how the Democrats have been slow walking all this stuff, but that's very, very cool. And he's handed it off to you, and you're a very able and excellent choice to handle this. Let me ask you something. You watch what is going on in the federal city, Washington, D.C., the tremendous progress that's been being made in protecting the citizens there, and then you see the Democrats are frothing at the mouth, full-throated attacks on Trump as an authoritarian. And the media are pretty much with the Democrats again, aren't they?
The media cited the falsified crime report 73 times in one night, CNN and MSNBC combined. The report that got the former police chief fired. They cited it themselves 73 times in one night. It's kind of a new low when you're going to take the 1% of an issue. Where if you poll, there was a poll that came out just tonight that showed that 99% of the country thought that crime in big cities was a big problem.
99.
And if you're 99, yeah, 81 said it was a huge problem, and 18 simply said it was a big problem. So 99% of the country thinks that crime in big cities is a big problem. And the media and the Democratic Party have taken the 1% of that issue. It boggles the mind.
Do you ever see, in all your years you've been doing this, do you ever see much of a gap between the Democrats and the media in terms of what the media report and what the media prioritize? I mean, I don't think there is much of a gap, is there?
Especially in the last 24 hours, no. When you have Gavin Newsom and the Mayor Fry attacking prayer, and then in lockstep, Jen Psaki, Michael Steele, and Dana Bash do the same thing, attacking prayer. I mean, that is a new low. Some interesting talking points went out across the beacon, the left-wing ecosystem beacon. Let's go attack prayer. I mean, kids who are kneeling and praying know that there's a higher authority than Gavin Newsom. And that's why they're doing it. So, the idea that you would attack a Judeo-Christian nation that is trying to come together after this vicious attack is a super low for these guys, and they're doing it in lockstep, just like you said.
And I'm always interested to see what gun control law exactly would pass that would have prevented this guy from doing what he did. I mean, they put out these false hopes. They put out the idea that it just takes a law. And I'm reading, probably some of the same things you are. They're attacking the Republicans. So you have a slaughter here, and that could have been even worse. And they attack Republicans over the. Let me ask you: is the mindset just on the left so perverse that it's politics all the time, power all the time, no matter how many people are involved, no matter the tragedy?
You would think that, I think that the country would sit down and have a discussion about the gun control. I really do think that this could happen if, big if, the media reported this tragedy and tragedies like it soberly, accurately, patiently. These guys are tripping all over themselves. Instead, they're tripping all over themselves as to what to call this guy or girl. Is it Robert or Robin? And so that's what they're fixated on. They can't even. They got so lost in that. Jay Tapper for an hour just called him the shooter. Wouldn't even address him by name for an hour on CNN the other day. So it's one of these things where it's the ends justify the means. There is a personal now. I mean, it's not just a political; it's a personal obsession with Donald J. Trump. The fact that they've ignored Tulsi Gabbard's revelations, that every intel report from 2016 on could prove that Barack Obama engineered a falsified Russia report, engineered the hoax, and multiple intelligence reports confirmed the same thing, that Barack Obama was behind it all, and they've reported it exactly 0 seconds this week. They gave Russia 1,000 times more coverage than they've given Tulsi Gabbard since she started bringing these revelations to light. So it's pretty incredible.
And they over at Newsbusters, Media Research Center folks, Newsbusters, we're all familiar with them. They're absolutely fantastic. They all talk the same way.
From all of us, thank you.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm just looking here. Psaki, I call her Psaki, falsely says U.S. has world's highest rate of gun violence. I mean, they go right to the same knee-jerk thing, gun control. I mean, we've had people slaughter people with vehicles, with the bombs.
They gave him no coverage.
Yeah.
The Florida truck, Mark, the Florida trucker allegedly kills 3 people, allegedly. 0 seconds of coverage. Meanwhile, Garcia, the so-called Maryland man, got 17 additional minutes from the broadcast networks just over the weekend because he may or may not be ending up in Uganda. 17 additional minutes for an illegal alien human trafficker, and 0 coverage of the illegal alien who got his permit to drive from the Biden administration, killing 3 people in Florida. 0. And on top of that, Mark, they're not immune to covering car crashes. Okay, the broadcast networks covered 4 separate car crashes in the last month alone, all of which had no fatalities at all, just big crashes, or a car ran into a diner where food influencers, YouTube people were having dinner. I mean, so they're not immune to covering car crashes, but the one that challenges their open border narrative, they won't touch.
Let me ask you this. Why do the same media, and you guys have done a great job of pointing this out, why do they hate Israel? I mean, they spew the Hamas propaganda. They spew the genocide propaganda. What is it about the media that they hate Israel? Is it because they're mostly Democrats and the Democrat Party has turned on Israel? What is this?
I think perhaps they're losing their grip with a historically Democratic coalition within the Jewish voter base. That's part of it. I'm overseas. I'm in Europe right now, talking to you from Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Boy, oh boy, I've yet to see a flag for Holland. Okay, I've seen about a dozen Pakistani flags.
Don't hang up, even though you're overseas. I want to hold on to you if you don't mind. Talking to David Bozell, president of MRC Media Research Center. He's a great guy, great family. We'll be right back.
This is Radio Free America on the Mark Levin Show. Call now, 877-381-3811.
We're here with our friend, David Bozell, the president of Media Research Center. That includes Newsbusters, among other things. Fantastic sites. David, I didn't know you were in Europe where it's 2:30 in the morning. Thank you, brother.
Hey, anything for you, sir. Anything.
You're a good man.
You're not just the great one. You're the GOAT, in my opinion. So
you're very kind. God bless you, man. Jeffrey Lord has a great piece up there on Netanyahu debased liberal media side with Iran and the barbarians. This is true, isn't it? I mean, they side with Hamas. Yeah. They use Hamas statistics. What's that all about?
Yeah, I was mentioning before the break, all I see are Palestinian flags and Hamas sympathizers around Amsterdam, which is just ridiculously sad. But let's posit a couple of other reasons. I think, number one, The United States legacy media, I call them the upper class media, but the so-called legacy media outlets have really kind of caught up to where global leftist media have been for quite some time, and being more anti-Israel and more pro-Palestine, more pro-Hamas. This has just been a sad drift in the last 10 to 12 to 15 years. You've also got an anti-religious bias. Okay, we talked at the top of the break. They're anti-faith, right? That's not just praying, kids praying in Catholic schools. They're anti Judeo-Christian, the Judeo-Christian founding of our country, right? The leftist media would prefer that people believe that rights are granted by government, not by God. And there's also the Trump factor, right? So Trump signs the Abraham Accords. He moves the capital to Jerusalem. So anything that Trump did positively for Israel, the media is going to be naturally against. So those are just a couple of reasons why I think you've just seen this just tight Israel bias just manifest itself and just sort of grow like a virus in the United States legacy media operations.
Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a fantastic group. You can go to newsbusters.org and see everything. Media Research Center, Newsbusters, they've been around for decades. David's father founded the organization over 30 years ago. I've known your father for like over 30 years. I remember him when he was young.
Don't say that. Don't age yourself. Come on now.
I was going to say, I remember when we were both young. Not anymore. But we have great kids, David. You're a great young man. I want to thank you. We're gonna be tapping into you much more often, folks. If you want to learn more, again, go to newsbusters.org, and they live off of subscriptions and donations. They get nothing from the government, unlike Politico and the rest of them. So take care of yourself, man. Enjoy yourself while you can.
Sir. Appreciate it. Have a great holiday weekend.
You too. God bless. Fantastic family. Bozells and the Levins are very tight, But it's a very important piece here, Netanyahu, Debased Liberal, by Jeffrey Lord, who's a great writer. The headline in the Washington Examiner was blunt and to the point. It read, "Liberal media have debased themselves in their anti-Israel coverage." Yeah. Mainstream liberal media outlets have consistently gotten stories wrong about Israel and Gaza, trusting the word of Hamas terrorists and the UN supporters. This is happening all over cable, too. As the war is going on, though, those outlets are choosing to debase themselves more and more, even going as far as to knowingly peddle false narratives and write sob stories for terrorists. Yep. The New York Times has served as an official propaganda organ for Hamas for decades. In 2014, Noah Pollack detailed for the Washington Examiner how the Times only published pictures of civilians in Gaza, never Palestinian terrorists or militants. And the outlet was one of many to run the false hospital bombing story in the aftermath of October 7, where 500 Palestinians were killed when a hospital, quote-unquote, was attacked. But we now know that was a parking lot that was struck by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad missile. In short, you could call this assessment the liberal media versus Israel. And he goes on and on with example after example after example. But it's Friday, and I want to give you folks a shot at talking too here, which is what I'm trying to do. And let me see here. Let me see if I can pull this up. Hello. Live and national. All right, here we go. Got it? Sorry, folks. The email is acting very funny. I think it's the Russians. Here we go. All right, I got it. Let us go to Andrew. Traverse City, Michigan. XM Satellite. Andrew, how are you?
I'm great. How are you tonight, Mr. Levin?
I am very well. Thank you, my friend.
I'm trying to compose myself here because I'm a bit nervous to be talking to you. It truly is an honor to speak to you.
Well, first of all, you're very kind. And I say to my wife, why are callers nervous? Why are people nervous to talk to me? She says, because you can intimidate people. I said, but I'm not trying to intimidate people. They're not liberals. Anyway, Andrew, you relax. You go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think part of it, I'm just little nervous because you're just honestly such an intellectual person, and it's just a lot to think about having a good conversation with you. But I just picked up a copy of your latest book on power. Just got it from Costco this evening.
Beautiful.
And just basically wanted to call and say hi, and I'm just really looking forward to getting into it. This is the third book of yours that I have now.
Thank you.
And I don't know a whole lot of what to expect from this book yet. Believe it or not.
I think you're going to love this book.
I follow you all the time. I'm a Blaze TV subscriber. Listen to you at work often. So, it's in my.
What do you do, Andrew?
Obviously.
What do you do?
I do collision repair of automobiles, cars.
Oh man, I can use you sometimes if you get my drift.
Yeah.
Well, you're a hardworking guy. A guy who works with his hands. I love it. And I'll tell you what, don't hang up, Mr. Producer. Let's get Andrew's full name and address. I'll send him a signed copy of On Power. And maybe, Andrew, you can give that to somebody else in your family or a friend.
Excellent. I greatly appreciate that.
No, you're a good man. Thank you. Don't hang up now. Don't hang up. Let's keep going. Brian, Potomac, Massachusetts. Potomac, Maryland, I think it is. WMAL. How are you?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to tell you there was an article in the paper in Washington, D.C. area a couple of weeks ago about the Fairfax County School District helping two underage teenage girls who were pregnant get abortions.
Yeah, without telling the parents.
Without telling the parents. That's just incredible to me.
It's sick. And it's outrageous that these government schools with these bureaucrats controlled by the unions think they have such power over your child. It's sick. Whether it's the locker room and the bathroom, whether it's abortions, this whole damn thing. And that's what I'm saying. This poor generation of kids, they're not learning the right things. I mean, some are, but a lot are not. And this screws people up. It absolutely screws people up. Excuse me, Brian. All right. Thank you for the reminder. You take care of yourself. All right. Let's keep going. Phil in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, my hometown. I might add the home of the Philadelphia Eagles. What did the Philadelphia Eagles win, Phil? The Super Bowl. The Super Bowl Philadelphia Eagles, WNTP. Go right ahead, my friend.
Okay, sir. Just a little common sense. It's horrific what happened in Minnesota, but Mark, gender dysphoria is a bona fide mental condition. The federal application to possess a firearm has a specific portion where do you have mental disabilities?
They're never going to do that, though, are they?
Yeah, but Mark, if they went through any trans who owns a weapon and they do a wellness check and they take those guns off these people, these are our children that are at their mercy, and these people have no mercy, none. So they got to be disarmed. They lied on their application. If you lied on your bar exam or your bar application, you wouldn't have a lawyer license. Notary, you lie on that, you wouldn't have a notary. If you lie on your federal application that you don't have any mental conditions, you get the gun taken off you.
What do you think about what's going on in these schools?
Mark, I'm telling you, we have a little group here that walks around. Our kids go to parochial school, and we have a little group of grandpops that walk around in the morning and the afternoon, just make sure they get in and out. Say, we call ourselves the Pop-Pop Squad. But, to us, it's like one Pop-Pop is better than any one child. So, we're just on the watch out. We just look out.
Smart.
It's got to be done.
Very smart.
It's got to be done. Okay.
It's funny. We used to call my grandfather Pop-Pop, too. Is that a Philadelphia thing? I guess it is.
Yeah, it is. It is. I didn't even know my until I saw it on his mask card. My grandfather's name was Ed. I always called him Pop-Pop. He was 10 years old when I was 10 when he died, and I didn't even know he had a first name. He was just Pop-Pop to me.
All right, man. You sound great. Thank you. All right. We go from Washington, Philadelphia, to Mississippi, Columbia, Mississippi. Albert on XM Satellite. Albert, how are you, sir?
Doing fine. Great honor, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Quick
Go
question.
for it.
I was just curious. I've been watching TV for 2 days. We need to find the root causes. How come no one looks at big tech and the video games that all of this generation has grown up playing?
Mm-hmm. This is. See, I don't disagree with the video games. I don't disagree with the internet. I don't disagree with all this. And to me, the generation needs to be centered. Needs to be centered on something, on a belief system, on a morality. And I think we're losing that. I think that's a big part of the problem. It's not the only problem. As I said when I opened today, it's a complex issue. Maybe there isn't one answer. Maybe there aren't 5 answers, but we can at least try. And when the media go out there and they say, stop praying, forget about God, we got to do something, they don't even say it's okay to pray and so forth, but we've got to do something. They say, forget about praying and forget about that. I think the media are a big problem, too, to be perfectly honest with you. All right, Albert. Good man. God bless you, my friend. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
We jump into the gene pool, as you know, and the gene pool is doing very, very well. Let's go to Diane in New York. The great WHAM. How are you?
Oh, I'm just fine, Mark. I know it's towards the end of the show. I will be brief. What we are experiencing, people need to understand that there is a word for the present situation, and we can apply it to California, Chicago, the city of Rochester, etc. It is called kakistocracy, Kakistocracy. Kakistocracy. It is the
sounds like a rash.
When it is, yes, I know. It is, in fact, very real. I have a very old encyclopedia. You got to refer to the old books because they're not rewriting history. Kakistocracy. Yes, it is a government run by the worst people of the state. So that's California, Chicago, Rochester, etc. Okay, there's your word of the day. What we need to do is wake up and be aware. This attack on religion, Christian Judeo values, okay, it's right versus wrong. There are rules, and guess what it involves? Discipline and self-discipline. So people are lazy. They just can't deal with it. Why do we have this? Yes, because it's to save us from ourselves.
Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. I got to move on. And, Mr. Producer, I cannot find that. So we're going to have to save that for tomorrow. Just let Teresa know. Go ahead. Is she still there? Or did I cut her off?
Yes, I'm still here. I'm still here, Mark.
You go ahead.
Our enemies regarding the U.S., okay, it's been said in the past, this is what happens when people have freedom. This is a deliberate attempt to destroy us. They are here, they are infiltrating, and it's about money. Yes, the media. What do they care what they say on TV? They're making millions. The politicians are having a great time. Whenever Governor Newsom's name is mentioned, it needs to be followed with the descriptive to smack people on the side of the head, Nancy Pelosi's nephew. Oh, she taught him well, didn't she? We're in trouble. We're in trouble, Mark, and it just is killing me.
Well, number one, you are terrific. Number two, you're a pistol. You got a lot of energy. And I appreciate that. You're calling from right outside of Rochester, is that right?
Yes.
I got to go, but thank you. Great call. I've got to run. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, you, the men and women of the United States, the greatest people of all. God bless each and every one of you. We'll do it again tomorrow. I'll see you right here. Have a wonderful evening.